Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Ampire Media, Ampire. Always much appreciated when you tune in. Don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. And if you want to become a club member, go to the Empire Media YouTube page, see the word join, click on there, go from there. You get extra reports during the week. And also for you gold members, you get that private Zoom session. We can ask me anything, and then I'm going to bring on. I've had Santana Moss in there with me. We had Logan Paulson in there one time with me. Going to have someone else hopefully this week. So stay tuned for that. Anyways, there you go. I'm going to get into my little game review, and it's more not to get too deep in the X's and O's, just a little bit about what happened and why. And so stay tuned for that. I talk about Frankie Louvu, obviously talking about the offense. And I will say it's a little bit harder this year to pick out what is exactly you want to talk about because there's a lot of things to talk about that I think you probably want to hear about. So, not going to talk about everything, but I'll get to those. And I do want to start with a couple things. When you look, first of all, some health updates. Brian Robinson did not play in the second half. Dan Quinn said today on Monday that it sounded like it was more of a precaution to keep him out. And game started. I think they kind of realized where the game was at, and they knew they could play it out with Jeremy McNichols and Austin Eckler, and they did. And McNichols has done a good job of providing help when they've needed him. And it's funny because I think guys like him and Olamide Zaccheaus, and I think they really kind of provide a heartbeat for this team to a degree. And I say that because you're calling them. He's a backup running back. He's McNichols meaning, and he's been around. He's on, I think this is 11th franchise, if I remember right, and yet he's been a contributor. And I think when you show confidence in guys, it really kind of boosts their confidence. And I think when you watch McNichols, I think he's playing with a lot of confidence. And it allows you to then take a guy out and just say, okay, that's enough. You got the lead, it's 24-3, 20, whatever. You're probably going to be okay. So just get to the next week and save him, keep the health in mind for the long-term health. And I think that's just a smart plan. As far as any other health, as far as the overall health updates, so we'll know more on Wednesday for Brian Robinson, Noah Brown, anybody else. But I do think it's worth noting that when you look at part of the reason this team has done well is when guys have gone down, others have stepped up, even if it's in a smaller role. Like De'Ami Brown, I talked about this after the game, but he has a big game. It's filling in for Noah Brown, and then you have Dante Fowler, who's been filling in for Cleveland Farrell and doing a solid job. And so that stuff adds up when you're doing that, and it makes everybody feel like they're contributing to this effort. And it's funny too, because then Quinn pointed out Nick Bellore, the special teams guy. He said, just listening to he and Jeremy Reeves on the sidelines talk, it's like this high level special teams talk. But it's good to have guys like that who have a passion for that particular unit. And I think, they've set the tone with some pretty physical play at times. So, those are things that start to happen when you are playing well. And at 4-1, they're playing well going into Sunday's game against Baltimore. And I'll get more into that Baltimore game. And I will talk about that a little bit for sure on our live stream Tuesday night, 7:30 Eastern time. Join us then. So I'm sure we'll talk about that, what this game means, but also like how good is this team right now? And they're good, folks. But and how good is this offense? Is it who's better offensively? So all those kind of things. Anyways, but I do think I did want to mention some of those other things. And I do it's funny because I received a text from a friend of mine, longtime friend, who's a very smart football person, who's also a Cowboys fan. And he was like, when he watches this team, he's like, he just sees effort all over the place. And I agree. I think that's part of, as Dan Quinn likes to say, a secret sauce. And I think when you start to get that, you really start to elevate. And the guy that really highlighted that was Zaccheaus, and Quinn singled him out today on the conference call. And it's worth going back on the Austin Eckler 50-yard run. It was an unbelievable thing of effort. And I cannot put video on here. And I've said this before, and it's like, yes, I know others do it. I'm not allowed to do it. I'm with ESPN. We can't do it because it's by NFL rule. And other people who do it probably aren't supposed to be doing it. So I'm adhering to my company's policy with this, but it's also the NFL's policy. You can only use so much video footage from a game. Anyway, some people ignore it. I can't. But if you can go on Twitter and find a replay, and Jay Gruden, in fact, I tweeted it, retweeted something that Jay Gruden tweeted with this play, talking about Zacchaeus Zephyr. And the reason why it highlights where this team is at. And so Zacchaeus runs a jet sweep on this play. He runs a jet sweep to the left, goes all the way out to the left, right? And so you have two guys pulling. You have Bates blocking down on Koromoa. Just a really nice gap there. You have the end coming up field. The tackle takes him out. Great gap for Eckler to shoot through. He gets down the field. Well, Zacchaeus, you see him on the far sideline running with him, running, cutting across the middle, running, gets to, then he's just hauling ass. And Eckler fumbles. And if Zacchaeus isn't hauling his butt down there, it's possible that Koromoa recovers it because he's right there too. And I think McCaffrey was also coming right there. So one of those two are going to get it. Very good chance that Koromoa gets it. But because of how Zacchaeus was hustling, he gets it. That is impressive. And I don't know. And you know what? And I'll try and put up some still shots right now of that just to show you where he started, where he got to. I'm allowed to put those up. That's why I do that. But that kind of effort is incredible. Now, again, do they win the game? Yes, they're still going to win the game, regardless of that fumble, that play or not, or that fumble. If he didn't recover, if he hadn't recovered, I still think they win. But that's just the kind of effort that you need. And when you are playing well, that's the kind of effort you get. And when you're not, you see guys who don't do that. But I also think, it's funny because my friend also told me, he's like, Quinn's defense, they just play fast, physical, et cetera. Well, when you find guys who that's in their DNA, and this is where I think it starts, you get guys who it's in their DNA to play that way. Frankie Louver, Bobby Wagner, et cetera. Those are the kind of guys you want. And then you can coach that, right? But it's really hard to find guys who don't, you can't get guys who don't have that and then make them play like Mike Samerstil, like he plays that way too. Little dude, very physical, um, little for an NFL guy. But that's what you do. And then you see other little plays like, the other things that jump out is the little details that add up quite a bit. And watching the receivers consistently chip, and the tight ends, especially the receiver, chip. The backs would do it sometimes too. Chip the end, chip the end, chip the end, chip the end. I don't know that it was every play. It was a lot. And that makes a difference too. Now, those are the gritty things. And sometimes you might see someone give kind of a half-hearted effort and not really do it. You're seeing guys like Austin Eckler and all that really give, Zacchaeus, McCaffrey, those guys give a tremendous amount of effort on just that too. So like that stuff adds up, but it's all those little things that you do that add up to 4-1. And so I think that's something they do. Watching the linemen get downfield too. I'm watching like that's a team that's playing with confidence when you're seeing the linemen get down there the way they are. And I think that's indicative of that. And again, watching Zacchaeus and McCaffrey, I think they play bigger than what they are. And, on Brian Robinson's touchdown run, for example, the reason he makes it now, that's a really good hole. It's a good play design. He gets through the hole fine. Somebody's got his foot, but he breaks free. He's not going to score if McCaffrey doesn't get his block. McCaffrey's on the left side, just does a really good job moving his feet to stay in front of the blocker. And without that, he doesn't score. With it, he scores. That's the difference in receivers blocking or not, or being a good blocker or not a good blocker. And you see other teams where that's not the case, right? You're not getting that. So I think it's just been a plus for this team. And it's one of those little reasons that add up to why they are playing well and winning games. And I don't think that's going to change. Like you don't change that. So you're going to always benefit from that kind of a mindset. But again, find players who do that and build around them, and that's what they've done. So I also like how there's a creative use of personnel and all that. And with Eckler too, for example, on the 4th and 2, you have Robinson in the backfield, but you're using Eckler on a jet sweep. And I like using Eckler and Robinson together, but it's a nice little wrinkle to have, Eckler running the jet sweep, but it just shows the versatility as like he's lining up wide with the tight end and McCaffrey or two tight ends there to run a tunnel screen. And like not a lot of running backs can run it like that and do all of that, right? And I think it just gives you another look and something else to defend. Next time they're in 4th and 2, maybe they run that jet action. And now you're running the Robinson, but because you're going to run that, it may keep another defender or two out of the front, or at least delay them. and then you get that first down. So like that's what happened. Like on this one, eyes are on Robinson. Now the linebacker overshoots it or is pursuing just a really good cutback by Eckler, but it started with, just a nice design. They also used on another one they had, oh, it was on another 4th and 2. No, excuse me. It was not on the 4th and 2. It was on a 10-yard run by Robinson. And what they did, they had Eckler and Robinson in the backfield. And it looks like Eckler releases for a pass, but it looks like it might be a draw. And so, but because Eckler releases, excuse me, take that back. It looked like it was going to be a pass because it was a draw. That's why it looked like a draw. But so Eckler just goes downfield, and the backers are setting up. They're dropping because it looks like a pass, and it's a draw to Robinson. So, but because Eckler's in the game releasing like that, the linebackers are biting on it, and it creates a gap. Now Koromo shoots over, but with a good cut by Robinson, bounces to the outside, and he gets 10 yards. Now he got 10 yards because of his own effort, but that's what you want. You get him in the open field, and he's going to run over a couple guys, right? So, but that it started with, I just think the action of the play, it makes it look like a pass, and they benefited from it. The linebackers just dropped, and so just a good job by them. Um, I also think that on the um, on the 13-yard on the 13-yard run by Daniels. You have Eckler in the game again. You have because of what he's done, you have Cormoa in the defensive end on that play. Eyes are on him. Daniels keeps around the end, 13 yards. Just a nice job there. But again, it's starting to use because of the effectiveness of Eckler. Like these guys are all being effective and it all plays off each other. Like you're not sure what you're going to do sometimes or who's going to get it because each guy has gotten it. And he's not just gotten it, but has hurt a team as well. So just a good job, I think, a continued good job by Cliff Kingsbury and Jaden Daniels too. Listen, was it his best game? No, and that's what I liked about it because it wasn't necessarily his best game, and he actually had a lot of really good plays in the game, and I think that speaks well for him, right? I mean, he had one of the things that Quinn keeps talking about is keeping his eyes upfield. On the 66-yarder to Terry McLaurin, that's exactly what he did. Now he's not going to pick up the first down if he runs. It's third and long. He's not going to get it. It's third and 13. He has no. The Browns had it defended right, but he still could have done that. But the bottom line is he kept his eyes upfield and he threw on the run. He threw a gorgeous ball. So that's a good thing. Now, there were hiccups. The interception and the play before at the goal line, I know people are talking about how much he missed Eckler, but if you look at it from the end zone, Cormo is in the way. Cormo was reading his eyes all game and just moving with his eyes, right? And on this play, like, Ertz, there's a gap there for Ertz, but Cormo is in his line of vision. So I don't know how that affected that, but it certainly looked like it did because it was a uncharacteristically inaccurate throw by Daniel. So and then the next play, you know, it was the interception. And my sense was it was a predetermined read and he was going to go. It looked like they were lined up in man. They dropped into zone. I think because he thought there was man, I think he just stuck with that side, which is too bad because on the other side, Terry McLaurin breaks underneath and he for a slant and he's wide open. It's an easy touchdown. As Spurrier used to say, it's an easy pitch and catch. So that was the unfortunate one, and sometimes that happens in the red zone. You've got to make a quick decision, my sense was, and I find out more during the week, but like it felt like it was a predetermined read, and I'll know more. It's something I'll talk about later in the week too. But just what you learn from that, for sure. But again, it's unfortunate because McLaurin had a touchdown on the other side. And again, sometimes when you're seeing that, it's like this is where it's going to go. And sometimes the other guys on their side is open. He's like, hey, nothing you could do, right? But in that area, you've got to be decisive for sure. And he tried to be. I think the Browns also maybe got him with a man look and then dropped into some zone on that one too. So, but again, I like just the way his approach is. And he's a guy that, I mean, they struggled early. I think it's like five of their first six plays were negative or nothing, and yet they hung up 24. at halftime. So that's how you recover as an offense. It also helped, and this is something that they have to be careful. One reason I felt like they could stay consistent, or at least recover from a tough start, is because the way the defense played and the Browns offense was really bad, which this defense had something to do with that. But that allowed Washington's offense to stay on schedule to make sure that you can continue to do everything you want to do because the other team is not moving the ball, is not a threat. So I'll be curious to see like if they get into a game Sunday, what happens if they fall behind? And it's okay because you want to learn something about this team in every game. And what's going to happen there, right? And they against the Giants they came back, but this is a higher powered offense. But they went toe to toe with the Bengals and they beat them. So that's another good offense. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how they respond to that. But in this game, that wasn't the worry, and they were able to stay on schedule with what they wanted to call, and that was a good thing for them. So there are a couple drops by Ertz. Doesn't help Daniels at all, of course. Um, I think um, there was another one where there's a 3rd and 1 where he runs around the end and you see McLaurin breaking into the end zone again, but he picks up the first down with 2 yards and they end up scoring on that drive anyway. And that's another one where I just wonder sometimes with the thought process of running a guy who can run like that. It's like, hey, I know I got the first down, get the first down. Yes, he's open. And I'm guessing that if he saw it again, he'd probably throw it. I do think he's progressed in this area, but you're still not perfect in that area, and that's okay. But you pick it up with your legs, live to get the next one instead of taking a chance, I guess. I don't know. But McLaurin was open. Um, on the 34-yard run, that was another one. I think he did a really nice job there because it's funny because McCaffrey's breaking open over the middle, but I don't know that it aligned with where his drop was to when McCaffrey was turning back for the ball. I don't know that it was quite in sync. And you got Koromoa bearing down on the outside, who is ultra quick and fast, and he got around him and he picks up 34 yards because of it. There are so many times where you look at it and say, like, that's a sack with almost any other quarterback, but not with him. And so that's it's the superpower that he has, right? And I still say he's a passing quarterback who can run because I think as he gets better and better with this stuff, you're going to see that more and more. But for now, man, is he dangerous because of that. And why not? Like, again, was McCaffrey open? Yes, he was, but I don't know if it lined up in the right way for him to feel comfortable. Just okay, now you can go. I don't know that it was synced up properly, or not properly, but it just didn't look like it was. So regardless, he picked up 34 yards, and that's more than he would have gotten had the timing been right when it was going, or like with Coramo coming when it I just anyways 34 yards, pretty damn good. Um, I also I brought up McNichols earlier. I like how he filled in on the touchdown run, does a good job. He's clogged the middle, bounces to the left. There's a hole, and just he runs through the linebacker to finish off the run. So a good job by him. And I think there's a lot of good on that offense. And one thing, the offensive line is starting to get some credit here, and which is I think is deserved. It's a but it also shows, and we've talked about this before, but it also shows just how important it is to have other contributions to help the protection. Miles Garrett, you didn't really hear his name called. Now there were times where he was getting in there. A couple of times, he was close, but he didn't get there. And a lot of times, because they were chipping him, and that they were chipping all day on both sides. It wasn't just on him, but I think they're giving the tackles a lot of help, and they are really good at that. And the backs I think have done a good job of protection. You saw Eckler shoot. There was one play where he basically he goes and cuts the linebacker, blitz him from the outside, and he knocks him up in the air, right? And I mean, because he's falling over, but so they've been very good with that. That's how you protect the passer. And there was another time too, like Tyler Biadasz, another good pickup, and he's a guy that's done a good job in pulling action. And Quinn brought that up that he wasn't asked to do a lot of that in Dallas, but he's doing it well here. In fact, on the 50-yard run by Eckler, he was one of the pullers. He and Cosme. And then there was another run. They ran a similar play later in the game. They got like 5 yards, I think, on a 1st and 10. where they had the same pulling action, and then Bates blocking on Koromoa. Bates from an inline blocker does a really nice job. So Biotis, though, the awareness that he plays with, there's one time he blocks down to the right and gets Cosme gets the guy secured. So he turns and looks and sees the left tackle starting to struggle a little bit with Garrett. And he gets over there and he helps out with Garrett. Now, somebody else was coming through, I think through Allegretti, but it was what I liked is Biotis's reaction and just the quickness he got over there with, and he helped. Now Daniels gets out of the play too, escaped the pocket, but it was a good job of some awareness by Biotis. And then I go back to the deep ball to De'Ami Brown for a touchdown, just a beautiful throw. The thing I wonder about, Mark Bullock pointed this out on social media or on Twitter, and it's something I want to ask Daniels or Diami, right? Two plays earlier, there was a similar defensive look, a coverage, and De'Ami Brown blows by the corner. And then they run another play, and then get the same look, look like a similar concept, and that's where he hits him. Same move. So that is if I don't know if that was coincidental because they went back to that play pretty quick, or not. But I do think if it wasn't, it's pretty damn heads up by whoever saw that, whether it was Daniels, because he ran out of bounds on the in-between play and said something to Kingsbury. So I want to ask, like, what was that part of it? Did you see something on the previous play, or did De'Ami Brown tell him something in the huddle, like, hey, man, I had him. And you know what? He did. So, and then he got him again. So anyways, just something I think that was interesting, and it's something I want to find out more about. Now let's get to the defense and some of the sacks, because I think this is where 7 sacks, pretty damn good. A variety of different ways. And I think this is one thing. Sometimes it was individual effort. Sometimes it was coverage sacks. Sometimes it was just as a design. And so I think did a good job of creating one-on-one situations for the D linemen. The Browns a lot of times were blocking with 5. Sometimes got 6, but they're overloads. And so the guy who dominated was Frankie Louvu. Gets a sack on the one with spin move against the right tackle, but he spins all the way to the outside shoulder of the guard, excuse me, of the center, gets through and gets the sack. Like, that's an impressive play, because but that's what he adds. And it's what he showed in Carolina too. One thing I always liked about watching him in Carolina, I felt like he had a good rush plan. Like, he knew how to set guys up. I still think you could probably rush him more than they have. And I think they will as it goes on, because in some games you're going to need him a little bit more to be more of a factor in that situation. 3rd and 5, he goes right through the running back, and I'm putting this one up as a still shot because, again, no video, but he knocks the running back probably a couple yards back, and it was a well-designed play. You get one-on-ones, you got Wagner coming up the middle too, and he comes behind him, running back gets knocked. Wagner basically knocks the running back into the quarterback, and there's the sack. So, but it all starts with Louvu just knocking the crap out of the running back a couple yards. And so that's where you go. Again, Louvu's name will come up a lot. There are coverage sacks. There was the 1st and goal from the 7. Watson misses a guy in the end zone. He keep his eyes up, but he didn't, so they get the sack there. There was another one on the sack fumble. This is where the coverage really helped, because he held the ball for it was 3.8 seconds before he starts to move up and try to escape the pocket. And then but the coverage holds up. Wagner chased him down, ball pops up. Louvu, who was rushing on the outside, wasn't near him, did not have a great rush. He's right where he needs to be because the ball pops up and he's right there, and he gets the ball and gets the fumble. Boom, there you go. The other one he had a sack where he comes through the right guard, just really good usage of the hands, gets in there quick. And it was important that he won quickly, 2.48 seconds. And the reason I say that is because on the outside, Amari Cooper gets Mike Samuel in a double move. It's there. And with a good throw, it's probably a touchdown. So, but this is where coverage and rush have to help each other. I just pointed out one where the coverage helped him. On this one, the pressure helped. You didn't know because the pressure got him. So it didn't matter that he was beat, because that's how you get it done. But it was, again, more one-on-one situations. And there's also another time where this is one that I liked, where Luvu's coming from he's lined up as on the left side. So you have the tight end chipping him. Then you have the running back chipping him again, engaging him, and then releasing in the pass. Then you have the right tackle there. So he basically has to get through three guys to get there. That's important because that created on the right side, you have more of an, not even an overload, it's you have more guys blocking than you have rushing, right? But on the left side, it's one-on-one. And that's big because Dorrance Armstrong was lined up as a D tackle. You had Dante Fowler as the on the outside. Excuse me, Fowler was as the D tackle, and Armstrong was on the outside. They run a stunt. The guard goes with Fowler. The tackle does not go with Armstrong, and it's a sack. And Fowler gets through. He gets through for the last sack of the game. But so the tackle should have stayed there and picked up Fowler, but he was trying. I think I botched that, folks. So I apologize. So let me say this again. So for you guys, if you're scratching your head, what the hell I was saying, Fowler comes on the inside and the stunt. Armstrong comes around. They should have switched off the lineman because um, that's how the guard plays it, but it's not how the tackle plays. The tackle was trying to chase, and it left an opening for Fowler. That's where the sack is. My apologies for bumbling around on that. Um, but Luvu consistently, like he helps make that play, even though he's not even involved in the play, because they had to pay extra attention to him. So and you were devoting resources to that side to stop a guy like that. And then, but he made plays all game. In fact, the other one, then I'm going to put up a little picture on this one too. But this is also where the crowd, I think, helped as well, because Quinn talked about the energy in the stadium, which I agree, it was really, really good. But how loud it would get on third downs or fourth downs. In fact, on the Browns' fourth down, they had the fourth down and one, and they had an extra tackle lined up as a tight end on the left side. That's a guy on Luvu's side. He's got to go get Luvu and keep him, certainly prevent him from getting upfield, at least maybe turn him in. Because if he does, then the Browns have a sweep to the outside, probably picks it up, and they get a first down. But because he's slow to get off the ball, off the snap, you see if you're looking at the picture, you can see all the linemen are getting up. The last guy is not, and that gives Luvu the advantage. And he gets upfield and just forces the running back to try and cut inside, which does not look like where it's supposed to go, and he ends up tripping him up and stops him, and Washington gets the ball. So Luvu's impact was felt all game in so many ways when he got the play and even when he didn't. And or even in the pass game as well. So that's what you need. That's what they're looking for from him. I do think other guys have played well on that defense. I keep pointing out Benjamin St-Juste, I think had a good camp and has had a good start to the season. And I think it's just things are working. I do think it's a really good test for this defense on Sunday, but regardless of what happens, you got to show up the next week anyways. And so I don't think it's necessarily a referendum on them, but I think it's good to see, okay, they've had two good games in a row. Let's see, are they going to keep improving? If so, where? Like Quinn talked about the area he felt they've been better at and better at the other day, and it needs to continue is the tackling. He said they had him, I think it was like with 4 missed tackles. The previous games they were in double digits. So that's a good improvement. It's a necessary one. And the other thing they haven't done that I'll be curious to see if they do if they can do more of this, is taking the ball away. Because this offense has not had a lot of short fields. It was Eckler. There was a punt return the other day that got in a short field. Eckler's return against the Bengals, but they're not getting the takeaways to set them up. That's what's kind of impressive about what this offense has done. It's really them moving the ball on their own. They're not, they could use more short fields to help them out. So anyways, that's it for me, folks. I'm starting to ramble. I apologize if I confuse the hell out of you. Didn't mean to do that, but it's late, and so there we are. So anyway, join me Tuesday night, 7:30 Eastern Time with Bram Weinstein, the Voice of Commanders, as we go over this and just start to look ahead to the game against the Ravens. It's going to be a fun one. Going to be a fun week talking about this because we're talking about football involving these teams, and it's just fun to talk about football. And then we'll ask some other questions and see what you guys think about how good is this offense. Is this the best offense in the NFC? Is it silly to even ask that question? I don't think it is. Anyway, folks, that's it for me. Appreciate you tuning in. I'll talk to you next time.